do that, I'm very honored to have two speakers, one from the state government and one from the private sector. So that is an interesting combination. So first, I would like to invite Mrs. Rama Devi Lanka. She's the head of Emerging Tech Wing, ITE&C Department, Government of Telangana. Mrs. Rama spearheads policy frameworks in AI, blockchain, cybersecurity. Sorry, I'm even a bit nervous, it's really bizarre. But it happens because I'm always so impressed. And other domains, positioning Telangana as a leader in tech innovation. She has driven initiatives like medicine from the sky and blockchain solution for farmers. With a background in e-commerce, she holds advanced degrees in environmental engineering and business management and is a recipient of the Digital India Award and Women Achievers Award. Thank you so much.
Well, I thought I'll say good afternoon, but I'm saying good evening to all of you. Good evening, everyone. I thank Amritapuri University and UNESCO, for having me here today to share my experiences in our state's journey, Telangana AI, and what are the areas, how are we actually looking into bringing in more women in AI. So I'm really honored to be here today because these two topics, gender and technology are very close to my heart. Throughout my career, I have always been a technocrat, but gender is another part that I've been focusing on for many years as to how to help, implement programs where we can help girl students, to choose STEM or get into technology as such. So, and more importantly, over the period of 2 days, I think many speakers have talked about it, And you know what? I've actually prepared a couple of points, but when I heard other speakers speaking, this is my point, they're already talking. So everything is spoken about, so nothing new I'm going to add, but I would like to share, a couple of examples, what the government has done, and probably that could actually be replicated or implemented for AI. That's what I want to share with all of you today. Specifically, and just before I get into the gender and technology, just to give you a brief overview of what we do in Telangana. It's one of the new states formed in 2014, and we, with a very, not sure how many, most of you, the students I see here, are you aware that we are in the midst of 4th Industrial Revolution? Please, students, raise your hand if you're aware of. Yes or no? So, we are in the midst of 4th Industrial Revolution, which is called a digital revolution. Earlier, the world has seen 3 revolutions. One is in steam. That second was assembly line automation, where, automobiles were made using automation. Third was internet, and fourth is in the 4th Industrial Revolution. As a country, India was not able to actually leverage the other 3 technologies, to become prosperous, unlike the Western countries. But I think this is India's revolution because a McKinsey report, it's not a report. The global McKinsey partner, his name is Bob Stefnell, I think, a year and a half back, what he said was, all of us were talking about, this decade is going to be India's decade. But what he said was really, stunned everybody. And when McKinsey speaks, someone from McKinsey speaks, the world listens, right? So what he said was, this is just not India's decade, but this is India's century. This is what he said. And he also said there are 3 things that India should do to make this century as India's century. And one he said is, India needs to actually, leapfrog on digitalization, which is again technology, AI, and so on. The second, it's important for students who are here today, India would actually produce 20 to 30, I don't remember the exact number, I think 20% of the world's talent, so we are going to become a talent hub. So students, be happy about it. You're going to get good jobs, opportunities across the globe. Third, of course, is not relevant to our discussion today, but which we are lagging. As a country, we are lagging behind compared to other countries, most importantly China, which is in the manufacturing sector. So if you leave manufacturing, the other 2 are relevant for us today, technology and So in that, if those are the opportunities, what is the lens that we need to look at, gender and technology? That's what I wanted to share with you. So many speakers have spoken about, what are the barriers for women, especially why are we even talking about an inclusive digital futures that ensures technological advancement, benefiting everyone? Well, all of you might be aware by now that one is, of course, the systemic barriers that exist in the society, which prevent women from getting access to STEM education, education itself, basic education, more so for STEM education, technology-related education, and so on. Secondly, cultural stereotypes. And this is, rampant in our society, I would say. Just to give you an example, my maid, she has 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. So one day she was really, struggling to complete the work, and she does another job, full-time job. So I said, don't you ask your children to help you? Pat came the reply. She said, yeah, my daughters help me. I said, what about your son? You have a son too. He said, no, I tell my son only when I need some errands, to buy something. So she's uneducated. She doesn't know, but even educated parents do that, that discrimination. So that mindset needs to be changed. So the cultural stereotyping, we need to come out. Well, these have been there traditionally. But the third important one, what everybody is discussing because of AI, is it's stacked against women, It's algorithmic biases. So this is again a great disadvantage to men, because whatever that earlier biases are there are getting into the algorithms. And as a result, it's actually affecting the marginalized and vulnerable populations, mostly women and, the other sector of population. But yet there is so much potential for transformation. If we can bring out, or bring women into this entire life cycle of AI. In fact, a study by McKinsey has shown that if you have a diverse teams, the productivity actually increases by 25%. So that's actually proven there. So why don't we bring in more women, to participate in AI development, not just for benefiting women, but to drive innovation as a whole, because women and a diverse team brings in diverse perspectives, so compared to a narrow lens, that's one. Secondly, because as women we understand, what are the kind of biases that get into the algorithms, what are those ones that are really affecting women. So bringing in more women really help, to address these biases. So again, talking about bias, many of them have talked about hiring algorithms where, for certain positions like programmer, actually it shows up more men rather than women. And just, I'll ask you a question. If you actually ask, about cooks, can anybody guess what are the kind of pictures that are thrown out? Who are the best cooks? Not best cooks. If you ask Google, to throw out images of cooks, what do you expect? Any guesses? Girls or students? It throws up women, because that's again bias. But we have the best chefs as men, So that's the kind of biases that we have in algorithms. And more importantly, algorithmic bias is shown in giving access to financial services, especially loans. If women apply loans, it initially actually that biased data enters into it, and they actually treat them as people who are not really, worthy to give the loan. So, so many biases have been discussed. So, again, to address that, again, these are not inherent in algorithms, These get into through data, and a good engineering can actually solve those problems. As somebody has asked in the morning, how do you address these biases in the hiring algorithms? Usually what they do, they actually compare the resumes, look at the history, whether it's complying to the requirements, the mapping they do. But if you can really, using Gen AI, the kind of tools that we have, if you can really judge the potential of a candidate, that probably can solve the biases that exist in society for hiring. So to do all this, to get more women into AI development life cycle, there are 3 actors in our universe, who can act as catalysts. So starting with, first, I represent the government of Telangana. So the government, what can the government do in order to address all those things that people have been talking about the whole 2 days? So I'll just give you 2 examples which really help to get more women into the workforce. Probably these examples can be replicated. Again, you need to do your own evaluation before you actually implement them. So the first one I would like to share is, one day, my driver didn't turn up. So I just booked a cab. And I usually, when I book a cab, I just like to chat with the drivers to understand what they're going through. So this driver said he has a daughter. I said, what is she doing? With great pride, he said, my daughter is doing engineering. I said, oh, good, good. Again, in our Telugu states, if you pass the entrance examination, you get into the merit colleges. Otherwise, the fees are very expensive. I asked him, how did she get the admission? He said, well, she couldn't get into the merit list, but the government actually, reimburses the fees for like the parents have to pay the fee, or the fee is reimbursed directly to the college. He just have to go and admit his girl there in the college, of course, based on certain criteria. Then the government directly transfer the amount to the colleges. So he said, because of that program, he was able to actually educate his girl child, that to send her to engineering, which would never have been possible for him. This is what really he said. So that is kind of an affirmative action by the government. It's a policy decision. That's one kind of. Though personally, I feel, merit should be the criteria to get into the colleges, but to help certain marginalized sections, sometimes, affirmative actions are needed. And the second example that I would like to share, which really worked very well within the government, I was attending a retirement function, just like this kind of auditorium. So they were all women in the auditorium. I said, and they're all civil engineers and mechanical engineers. This is in the Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, and a lady was retiring actually. So I asked her, how come so many ladies, the entire hall was filled with women engineers. I said, how come so many engineers? It was really good to see. She said, because the government has a 30% reservation for women, so most of the women get into these jobs. And they also prefer for the various convenience that they have with the government, not flexible timings, but convenient timings and so on. So these two, policy initiatives actually helped marginalized sections of the population, mostly women, to get into the workforce. So probably this kind of policy initiative can be replicated in the AI world too. So that's the reason I shared. The second one this is about the government, what government can do. The second one is within the private sector, I was part of this India-UK delegation where we were trying to carve out what should be the terms for UK-India trade agreement for AI, So there from India, we were a couple of, representative from government, private sector and so on. So there was this VP from Infosys. What he said was, it's again women, how do we bring more women in AI and so on. He said, at the entry level, actually, men and women, they are equal. Sometimes women numbers are more than the men, it seems, at the entry level. But as time goes by, down the line, 5 years, when women get married, some keep on dropping. Once women start having kids, again, there is a drop. So, and when you finally want women into the leadership positions, the pipeline is very, very, short. So he said, this is one of the biggest problem that we are actually facing with women. So as somebody has said, work-life balance and all that, so what is that the private sector needs to do? That's one example. Second, in the banking sector too, I'm saying this, sharing these examples because these are the foundational challenges that women are facing. Probably if we can address this, it could help to bring more women in AI too. That's the reason why I'm sharing. The second one is Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya. I don't know how many of you know her. She was the chairman of one of the largest public sector banks in India, which is SBI. So, a remarkable woman. In one of the interviews, she was saying, like same case in the SBI also, most of the women, after they get married, they have kids, they actually drop off from the workforce to get the kids educated. Once the kids reach a certain stage, elderly care starts. So, certain women prefer to come back, and SBI and Infosys also, they have started these programs called returnship to train women, and there's an organization called Women Who Code also. They also help women to get back to work, but still there's a lot to do in this area. So again, what is that they need to do? Again, many speakers have already indicated this: flexible work timings for women, returnship programs, specific career path, for women who come back to work. That will really help more women into the workforce after they drop down, so that will be encouraging for them to come back. Then the third one is encourage mentorship and leadership development, programs for women. And I can tell you, in Telangana itself, we really walk the talk. I head the emerging technologies division, and we deal with all the frontier technologies like AI, blockchain, cloud, drones, robotics, IoT. At one point of time, all my team members were women. So it's not that I intentionally choose them, I have to have a women's team like that. But being women, we understand, we don't have those biases. So we usually go for the best talent out there. And the best talent were women that I got, at one. Now I have a diverse team. But so women in leadership positions really matters. They understand, the talent in an unbiased way, I would say. So that is what the private sector needs to do, have more women leaders. Another example that I would like to share is we have organized the Global AI Summit in the month of September 24. So we wanted to have more women in the panels, Again, not just for the sake of having women, but really, I know that there are so many women out there who are doing excellent work in AI. But they were just not visible, believe me. We just scouted for we contacted so many organizations, so many people, but we could not get enough women to represent in the panels. And you know the reason why? Can anybody tell me why we couldn't find women? Students? Guess? Make a guess. Yeah?
Time's over.
Sorry?
Time is over.
Okay. 4 minutes I have? Two. So, yeah, we don't do enough networking. No social media presence. So, please participate in events like this and, make your presence in the social media. Social media is like your resume, If people are going to look for you, they look into the social media. And the last one that I want to talk about is the society and family. I think I mentioned this, but again, as Dr. Bhavani also mentioned when she cited the toilets example, there needs to be a mindset change within at a family level, at a society level, to have more women in engineering and technology. So again, the NGOs, especially foundations, they need to actually advocate gender-sensitive policies in education and workforce development. And more importantly, media should actually drive these awareness campaigns, to change that mindset. Finally, concluding, an inclusive digital future is just not to favor women, but it's a necessary for humanity, because as you all know, women represent half of the global population, and their perspectives and talents are indispensable to shaping the future of AI. So if you're excluding women, it means you're limiting innovation, you're limiting the economic potential, and you're actually limiting the societal growth. So let us commit to a future where women shape the design, development, and deployment of AI. I'm only talking about AI. I'm very passionate about this technology. So together we can build technologies that are inclusive, equitable, and transformative for everyone. Thank you.